Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu salam ala rasulillah, ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala, thumma amma ba'd. To proceed, welcome back. Today is our first session after the COVID-19 suspension for 5 months. The last class we had was on March 7th, and that's been 5 months and 1 day. Hopefully we have learned some lessons, and I think these are practical lessons. They should be even more powerful than the verbal ones. Allah taught us all how fragile the whole human race is, taught us about our fragility, and taught us about the unpredictability of life, and that there is nothing called routine. Routine is not guaranteed. Routine can change overnight. Our whole lives can change overnight if Allah so wills, and I hope that we have learned this lesson. But it is not always like doom and gloom, and we should always recognize another lesson here, which is that life carries on. Life continues until its appointed term, and if the appointed term has not come yet, life will continue. So don't lose hope and don't despair, and just keep your heads down, carry on, continue to seek that which is of benefit for you, your family, your community, and humanity throughout your life, and don't stop. A believer should never stop, and that was embodied in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ: إذا قامت الساعة وفي يد أحدكم فسيلة فإن استطاع ألا تقوم حتى يغرسها فليفعل. If the hour rises and one of you has like a sprout in his hand, if he can sow it, if he can plant it, let him do that. A believer never loses hope, because we know that this is just a phase of our existence, and we have a mandate, we have like a mission to fulfill during this phase. We just finish it. No matter what the circumstances are, we just carry on, and we finish this phase, and hopefully, inshallah, Allah yakhtim lana bil husna, Allah will end this phase for us in a good way. So, going back to Manaazil As-Saa'irīn, we have finished 97 stations out of 100, and we have finished 9 sections out of 10, and 7 stations out of the last section. So the sections, if you remember, the Shaykh rahimahullah ta'ala, the Imam al-Harawi, al-Ansari, or al-Ansari al-Harawi, who was from Herat in Afghanistan. He divided the book for ease and, for like educational, pedagogic purposes. He divided the book into 10 sections, each section into 10 stations, each station into 3 phases or levels, and each level, usually he did this. Each level was, he had like 3 points to make on each level. So the first station was al-Bidayat, and the last station is al-Nihayat. The first station is al-Bidayat, the beginnings. The second was al-Abwab, and that would be, the gates. The third was al-Mu'amalat, and that would be dealings. The fourth was al-Akhlaq, and that would be etiquettes. And then al-Usul wal-Awdiya, the foundations and the valleys. And then al-Ahwal wal-Walayat, that's the inner states, and Walayat, the higher states of friendship with the divine. And then al-Haqa'iq wa-Nihayat, the realities and the endings. We are in the last section, the endings. And today, inshallah, we will start station 98, which is the 8th station of the last section of the book, and it is about singling, or at-tafrid. At-tafrid, or to single Allah out, or singling. The Shaykh rahimahullah ta'ala starts as usual by an ayah from the Quran, and he chose قول الله عز وجل ويعلمون أن الله هو الحق المبين. And they will know that it is Allah who is the supremely evident truth. And they will come to know that it is Allah who is the supremely evident truth. So he's talking about tafreed, singling, to single Allah out. And al-fard is the one who is unique in every aspect. Al-fard, the unique one. Sui generis. Sui generis means unique in every aspect, one of a kind, unique in every aspect. So, in most of the Sufi discourse, the name al-Haq, one of Allah's names, al-Haq, has basically the limelight on it. Why is this? Al-Haq means what? The real. Because, Sufism started as a reaction to indulgence in life, in the pleasures of life, and heedlessness and so on. So it was like a wake-up call for people, particularly when the Khilafah al-Abbasiyya reached its zenith, and Muslims were very, very affluent, powerful, etc. This was a wake-up call for people to basically go back and focus on the most important priority, which is the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after people became somewhat heedless. Not the whole ummah. The whole ummah does not become heedless. This is a protected ummah. خير أمة أخرجت للناس, the best nation to brought forth to humanity. But when certain trends become prevalent, then certainly the reformers need to be alert to this and need to do something about it. So that emphasis on Allah being the real, al-Haq means the truth or the real. That emphasis on Allah being the real, it is to downplay the reality of as-siwa. Siwa means all else, everything else. And this eventually ended up in some problematic beliefs, hulul and ittihad and union, divine indwelling, and all of that. But it was not an inevitable course, and certainly it did not end up in problematic beliefs for the majority of the seekers, or for the greatest or the verifying seekers, and absolutely not. But for some people who did not pay enough attention and were not cautious enough, it ended up in monism, and then you lose the distinction between the divine and the human. You lose the distinction between the creation and the creator, because you basically stop seeing the creation, and if you stop noticing the creation, observing the creation, that's fine. If this is a mental exercise that you're trying to not see anyone but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, although you know that they exist, if this is a mental exercise, then it is fine. Once you believe it's an ontological reality, extra mental reality, that there is actually nothing but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing is real, nothing exists but Allah, then it will be very hard to explain what this is. And that is when you start to say, ما في الجبة إلا الله, or there's nothing inside the cloak except Allah. Problematic. But the emphasis on Allah being the real does not have to end up there. We need to make that emphasis, because everything other than Allah is what? Contingent, which means what? Unnecessary being, which means what? Disposable. So if that COVID-19 took somebody's life, myself or anybody, will life cease to exist? Will Earth stop rotating or anything? No, absolutely not. If the whole planet was to be blown up, by like a cosmic catastrophe, the rest of the planets and the stars and different constellations will keep going. So unnecessary beings versus the necessary being, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you compare unnecessary beings, contingent, disposable beings, to the necessary being, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it is almost as if you're comparing real to unreal. Almost as if. But we know that the creation is real because Allah is the real creator. So that's why the Shaykh started by this. If you want to single Allah out, then you want to have this sink deep into your psyche, your consciousness, that Allah is the real, is the supremely evident truth, and everything else is unreal in the sense of being contingent, disposable, unnecessary. And then the Shaykh carries on and says, التفريد اسم لتخليص الإشارة إلى الحق ثم بالحق ثم عن الحق. At-tafrid is a word for the exclusive dedication of the illusions to the real, then by the real, then from the real. First phase, every illusion, every statement, every illusion, every movement should be dedicated now to the real, and then in the second phase by the real. Why in the second phase by the real? Remember what the second phase is about? The second phase is about realizing that you have no might, power, or influence to disavow your hawl and quwwah, to disavow your influence and power, and realize that whatever it is that you do, you're doing it by Him. You're not doing it. It's by Him. So you dedicate your actions and statements and illusions and everything to the real, and then in the second phase you realize that you're not doing anything, you're doing it by the real. And in the third phase he says from the real, because you realize that you're not there, that He is doing, you're not doing anything, you're not doing anything by Him, He's doing through you. You're the tool, He's the doer, and you are only the tool. So everything is coming from Him through you. You're only a conduit for His actions in this universe. So the Shaykh then moves on to say فأما تفريد الإشارة إلى الحق فعلى 3 درجات. تفريد القصد عطشا، ثم تفريد المحبة تلفا، ثم تفريد الشهود اتصالا. As for the exclusive dedication of the illusions to the real, it is of 3 levels. The exclusive dedication of the intent out of thirst, meaning eagerness. Your intent, your qasd, once you walk out of the door, you will have to determine your direction. Where are you going? What is your qasd? You walk out of the door of your home, and if you're going to the supermarket, it's one direction. If you're going to work, so al-qasd is extremely important. You dedicate al-qasd, so the intent is completely dedicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your life, your death. صلاتي ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب العالمين لا شريك له وبذلك أمرت وأنا أول المسلمين. So my life, my salah, my nusuk, my sacrifice, my life and my death is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Dedicate the intent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Atashan means out of what? Thirst. Thirst is what they used for eagerness, because if you lived in the desert, the most important commodity is water. So the thing that you seek with ardent sincerity when it is lacking is water. That's the most important commodity. So eagerness, thirst usually means great deal of eagerness. So the dedication of, certainly Shaykh did not live in the desert, by the way, but it is, you know how the whole vernacular becomes affected by the vernacular of the revelation and the first community, regardless of where you live. So if you live in Indonesia, you're not living in the desert, but you may use the same vocabulary that is impacted by the revelation and the first community. So here the Shaykh rahimahullah says, tafrid al-qasdi atasha, dedication of the intent out of thirst or eagerness. ثم تفريد المحبة تلفا, then the exclusive dedication of the self-destructive love. تفريد المحبة تلفا, exclusive dedication of the self-destructive love. This is a love that is self-destructive because it makes the lover dissolve out of total enthrallment, and the love can make one melt, dissolve out of total enthrallment. So it is self-destructive, but it is self-destructive in a good way because it will destroy the self to earn your salvation through disavowal of the self, dispossessing the self, because that's what you want to do in tafreed. In tafreed, it is about single out the intended, not the intent, the pursued, not the pursuit, because we finished that in tajreed. In tajreed, which is stripping, the previous session was about what? Tajreed, it is stripping, right? It is dispossessing. To dispossess the siwa is tajreed. It is stripping, and then tafreed is vesting. To dispossess the siwa is tajreed, and then to focus on the sui generis, the unique one, the necessary being, the divine, God, is tafreed. So that's tajreed and then tafreed. So tajreed is about your actions, your pursuit, and tafreed is about the pursued one. Tajreed is about your intent, tafreed is about the intended, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So tafreed al-mahabbati talafa is the dedication of the self-destructive love, and the self-destructive love is very important. It is very important that you lose, like Abu Yazid al-Bastami said, that he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala how he can come to him, and so he said to him, you will not be able to come to me except if you lose yourself, lose your ego. So he said, I stripped from my ego like a snake strips from its skin. So that is what is meant by talafa, or self-destructive love, that will make you completely dissolved, will make your ego completely dissolve, so that the focus is on the divine subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the Shaykh said, ثُمَّ تَفْرِيدُ الشُّهُودِ اتصالا. So the first one is to dedicate all the intent out of thirst for Allah. The second one is exclusive dedication of the self-destructive love. And the third one, and then the exclusive dedication of the shahood, witnessing in connectedness. You can go back and review the session on ittisal, which is connectedness. But why is this coming after the mahabba? Shouldn't the mahabba be the ultimate station, the love of Allah be ultimate? Yes, it is. And no one is saying that he moved away from this to shahood. You're not moving away from mahabba to shahood. But the mahabba becomes such, the love becomes such, that after a while you stop seeing anything but the beloved. Initially when you love someone, you're still able to, love someone else and, have different types of love and so on and so forth. But then in the phase of total enthrallment, when you vanish into the beloved, when you dissolve into the beloved, get absorbed into your focus of attention, your beloved, you stop witnessing anyone but him. And that is why tafrid al-shahood comes after the mahabba. It is a consequence, but we have not left mahabba. We're just moving deeper into mahabba to the point where you're unable to see anyone except the beloved, subhanahu wa ta'ala. ثم تفريد الشهود اتصالا, and then the exclusive dedication of the shahood or witnessing in connectedness. Then the Shaykh moves on to the second level, which is تفريد الإشارة بالحق. And he says, وأما تفريد الإشارة بالحق فعلى 3 درجات. تفريد الإشارة بالافتخار بوحة، وتفريد الإشارة بالسلوك مطالعة، وتفريد الإشارة بالقبض غيره. So وأما تفريد الإشارة بالحق فعلى 3 درجات. As for the exclusive dedication of the illusions by the real, now you have no power, you have no influence, لا حول لك ولا قوة, and you're not doing anything. You realize now that you're not doing anything. You're just doing it by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not through your power, not through your might, not through your influence, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then it is of 3 levels. One is تفريد الإشارة بالافتخار بوحة, exclusive dedication of the illusions by disclosing one's pride. Exclusive dedication of the illusions by disclosing one's pride. Disclosing one's pride, should you disclose your pride? Isn't pride the problem? Isn't the ego the problem? This is your pride in being his servant. This is not your pride. You're not boasting about yourself, you're not boasting about your sort of virtues or excellent qualities or anything. You're just boasting about being a servant of him. You're boasting about him being your Lord. And there are multiple examples. And you're boasting about the ni'am that he bestowed on you. But this will require a great deal of sincerity. And if you're not sure about it, don't boast. Because like if you read the Manaazil As-Saa'irīn, Imam al-Qayyim rahimahullah mentions many examples of the good showing of pride by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ana sayyidu waladi Adam wala fakhr. I am the best or the master of the children of Adam, and he says no boasting. But he was the last prophet to communicate the divine message to us. If he did not tell us about his status, could we have ever known it? No, because he is the last connection between us and the divine, the one who conveyed the last testament. So he needed to convey to us his status. But there are also many examples of the Sahaba speaking about their knowledge, or Ali, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, others who spoke about their knowledge, and that is basically to speak of the ni'mah of Allah. وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. Speak of the favors of your Lord on you. So if Allah favored you, then speak of the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? To support others, to give others hope, to give others strength, certainty, etc. If this is your intent, or to let others know that I know about this subject, you can ask me. That's why they say that Imam Malik used to dress, used to like put a lot of sort of focus, I guess, or like pay a lot of attention to his attire and to his looks basically to show people, to let people know that I am a scholar, I know this. So instead of asking someone who's ignorant, come and ask me. If you can really be comfortable that you're doing it for this purpose, then you may do it. For the vast majority of us, it is extremely hard to get to that level where we are comfortable that we're doing it for that purpose. Therefore, don't say, I am just doing like Imam Malik, when you're nowhere near him. When you become close, then you may start, because not everyone should be imitated in every respect. Unless you're close to their hal, you're close to their state or status, then you could imitate them. Because if you like run behind, like what is his name, Usain whatever, Usain Bolt, or jump behind like the best, what they call them, jumper, you may fall and break your neck. So you have to be humble also. You have to recognize that you should not be. The same applies to polemics. When people engage in polemics and they say, well, the great imams have always done that, but you're nowhere near them. You're nowhere near them. None of them specialized in polemics, by the way. They all constructed their own school. They all constructed their own theories. And the polemics was a side job for them. They were never dedicated to polemics. So when people do things and they say that, yes, we're not the first people to do this, we have a precedent, you have to make sure that the analogy is a sound analogy. Because if you start to act like Imam Malik when you're nowhere near him, then certainly that's misguided. Anyway, but certainly, like for each and every one of us to speak of Allah's ni'am, Allah's favors, to say I have given something up for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and look what Allah had given me. If you're really comfortable that you could say this to give people hope and certainty and so on, then you can. So that's tafrid al-ishara bil-iftikhari bawhan. وتفريد الإشارة بالسلوك مطالعة, by observing one's conduct. Exclusive dedication of the illusions, by disclosing one's pride, by observing one's conduct with knowledge and verification. وتفريد الإشارة بالقبض غيره, and by being in constriction out of protectiveness. By being in constriction out of protectiveness. بالقبض غيره. Qabd is constriction. غيره is, it's usually translated as jealousy, literally, but it here means what? Protectiveness, or protective jealousy. So protectiveness, it means that your protectiveness of your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes you maqbood, constricted from the people, because you are too protective of your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are afraid if you are munbasit, expanded, if then you will lose that sort of distinction with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That bilateral sort of relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you become distracted or this or that. But that's not the last phase, by the way, because we will talk about expansion right in the following one, which is a higher one. So the Shaykh then moves to the third level, and the third level is the level of what? Fana. I heard this right? Okay. It's the level of self-annihilation. So you are not there. It is not like you're doing anything like the first one or doing it by Allah, like the second one. You're not there. He's doing it, and you're only the conduit through which his work is manifested. So أما تفريد الإشارة عن الحق فانبساط ببسط ظاهر يتضمن قبضا خالصا للهداية إلى الحق والدعوة إليه. As for the exclusive dedication of the illusions from the real, it is outward expansion that entails pure constriction, and this is the guide to the real and invite to him. As for the exclusive dedication of the illusions from the real, it is outward expansion that entails pure constriction, and this is the guide to the real and invite to him. So what is this outward expansion that entails pure constriction? You're outwardly expanded, you're able to now straddle the two states very well, al-qabd wal-bast. You're inwardly constricted, like your focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not subject to distraction at all, and you're constricted from the siwa, you're constricted from all else. But outwardly, you are expanded. Your easygoingness, your affability, your humor, all of that, to make you a better conduit. Because now you are just a conduit. Now you're not there, right? You're just a conduit. To be a better conduit, you want to have those qualities. To become a better conduit through which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides you, humanity, and through which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows His mercy also to humanity. للهداية إلى الحق والدعوة إليه, and this is the guide to the real and invite to him. So as a conduit, the characteristics that you need to have as a good conduit would be affability, easygoingness, generosity, gentleness, kindness, some humor, etc., etc. So that's the last one, the last phase, tafrid al-ishara an al-haq, the exclusive dedication of the illusions from the real subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this station of tafreed is one of the highest station. We only have two left, and we will be done inshallah with Manaazil As-Saa'ireen, with the book. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.